Yeah, what up, guys? Yeah, yeah. But is it art? Yo, my homeboy put together another song. He sent me a little snippet of his new song. I'm about to play that shit while I roll up. Come on, PlayStation camera. Don't act like that when I got company. I'm popular, popular. I'm popular, I'm popular. I'm popular, I'm popular. I'm popular, I'm popular. You better my pedigree. My man Key on the beat. Made the beat and all that shit. I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up, grind it. Can't start that shit back. Time for you for I'm grinding. It ain't about the money to fit. The cheddar that I cannot afford with, nigga. Nah, hey, I got that gas in the gang too. Yeah, I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up, grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, nigga. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot afford with. Big bag, nice crew, more rides than Six Flags. I'ma stun on your bitch ass. Fuck a hater, either way I'ma get cash, cause I stand on my own too. 10 told money blue is a crib flag. Hustle and get guap. On the road, I ain't making no pit stop. I had to try rocks till a nigga got his hand on the laptop. Was sleeping in the trap socks with the pack on the wheels, making the trap hot. Me, Petey Blow, while being hot for trap pharmacy. Man like a dog. Trap pharmacy, man like a doctor. Slave watching niggas still in the trap. You're rushing, we flushing. Simple as that. Lately been birthing them, killing them tracks. Right in the raw, whipping up crack. Constantly working, I grind for a purpose. No time for the games. Got on my ass, say it's time for a change. Dollar signs on my brain, remain humble while I grind for the bank. Easy money like LeBron in the paint. Feeling the pressure in the line in the drink. Ain't no rules on my clock, got no time for a skank. Only focus on the cake. Need a meal on my plate. I'm eating, I'm gaining weight. And asking a nigga for shit, cause I'm straight. Was bro, had to get on my knees and pray. Keep the faith, hit the booth, roll a 8. Smoke a cookie to the face with a mean scheme. I'ma triple my wage, nigga. Hey, I got that gas in the gang too. Gas. I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up, grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, I'm grinding. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with, nigga. Nah, I got that gas in the gang too. Yeah, I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up, grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, nigga. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you. I'm talking cash, I get it, I'm doing numbers, mathematician. I'm just trying to handle business. Me and P. for running up the ticket. Man, fuck these bitches, get the millions of mission. Me and Z Cash whip it up in the kitchen. Work my wrist like I'm whipping the bricky. Pushing kids, still move like a dealer. I used to post with the pack in my dicky. 20 double up to make it quit 50. Kept flipping, turn that 50 to Benji. 3 grams for the 100, let's get it. Copper 7, Mike Vicky. 14 to a zippy. Bust it down all 20s. Barrel salt for the sniffles. Posted with Peter, Lil' Haiti all summer. Niggas telling fiends, spending that money. 24/7, same clothes, body smelling. Bitches a clown and I ain't give a fuck. Same hoes on my dick, now I'm up. I pour a line of that drink in my cup. Sip a toke while I'm getting my dick sucked. By a bad bitch, she gon' suck till I bust and swallow the nut. Hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Gas. I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you nigga, I'm grinding. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you, nigga. Nah, hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Yeah, I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck nigga. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you. Kiki on
Yo, Bernardo, that's what's up, yo. Y'all remember that name though, Key on the beat. Yo, my man gonna blow up with this music shit. We play that shit one more time, yo. He just sent me that shit today, yo. Yo, this my little homie right here, yo.
Hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Gas. I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, I'm grinding. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you, nigga. Nah, hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Yeah, I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, nigga. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with. Big bag, nice crew, more rides than 6 flags. I'ma stun on your bitch ass. Fuck a hater, either way I'ma get cash, cause I stand on my own too. 10 told money blue is a crib flag. Hustle and get guap. On the road, I ain't making no pit stop. I had to try rocks till a nigga got his hand on the laptop. Was sleeping the trap spots with the pack on the wheels, making the trap hot. Me, Petey Blow, why being hot for trap pharmacy? Man like a dog, slave, watch a nigga still in the trap. They rushing, we flushing. Simple as that. Lately been burping them, killing them tracks. Biting the raw, whipping up crack. Constantly working, I grind for a purpose, no time for the games. Got on my ass, say it's time for a change. Dollar signs on my brain, remain humble while I grind for the bank. Easy money like LeBron in the paint. Blowing the pressure and the line in the track. Ain't no hoes on my clock, got no time for a skank. Only focus on the cake. Need a meal on my plate. I'm eating, I'm gaining weight. And asking a nigga for shit cause I'm straight. Bro had to get on my knees and pray. Keep the faith, hit the booth, roll a 8. Smoking cookie to the face with a mean scheme. I'ma triple my wage, nigga. Hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Gas. I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, I'm grinding. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you, nigga. Nah, hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Yeah, I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, nigga. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you. I'm talking cash, I get it. I'm doing numbers, mathematician. I'm just trying to handle business. Me and P. for running up the ticket. Man, fuck these bitches, get the millions of mission. Me and Z Cash whip it up in the kitchen. Work my wrist like I'm whipping the bricky. Pushing kids, still move like a dealer. I used to post with the pack in my dicky. 20 double up to make it quit 50. Kept flipping, turn that 50 to Benji. 3 grams for the 100, let's get it. Copper 7, Mike Vicky. 14 to a zippy. Bust it down all 20s. Barrel salt for the sniffles. Posted with Peter, Lil' Haiti all summer. Niggas telling fiends, spending that money. 24/7, same clothes, body smelling. Bitches a clown and I ain't give a fuck. Same hoes on my dick, now I'm up. I pour a line of that drink in my cup. Sip a toke while I'm getting my dick sucked. By a bad bitch, she gon' suck till I bust and swallow the nut. Hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Gas. I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, I'm grinding. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you, nigga. Nah, hey, I got that gas in the gang soup. Yeah, I'm about to run up a bag on you lame niggas. Run it up. Grind it. I ain't got time for you fuck, nigga. It ain't about the money, the fetty, the cheddar that I cannot fuck with you. Kiki Key on Turn up a little bit. I'm talking fly shit. I shine so bright, I make your eyes squint. So right the fly shit gets vintage. It's like this 9-6. I got the fine twisted gelato. Got my mind shifted. Sipping lean and soda ain't clean. Couple lines in it. Do your time's limited. Enjoy your life while you living it. And be thankful for life and the blessing God giving us. I swear so many times I thought of giving up. But I can't. Mama ain't raised no quarter bro. I got a call from my dog. He told me listen up. Get your money, stay humble, nigga, and keep a distance from niggas. And bring your digits up. Best advice he ever gave me, so I soaked it up. Now I ain't in the game yet, but I'm close enough. Times I ain't have a dime, I was broke as fuck. Now I let the bread sit till it's molded up. Like Thrax say, hundreds in the Cobra clutch. Knew the old money, I don't need whole money. Nigga. Just some M's house land with the Rolls Royce, nigga. Cash money, slow money, the fast money. It adds up, get a hustle, then stack money. It's that simple, nigga. I'm in position, I'm truly ready to get the business moving through the visions. It's vivid, I see the bigger picture, nigga. Yeah, nigga. I'm just an instrument in the orchestra, forcing you to listen. Give an image like artists. I paint pictures, go harder, you ain't winning. Key get on beats and feasts, Thanksgiving, but money, the main mission. Key on I'ma keep this shit a stack with you. I don't wanna kick it and chat with you. Y'all fugazi ass rap niggas. The shit that y'all do can adapt to. This the running of that sack music. Legal hustle on trap too. Get the money, stack blues. Nah, I can't fuck with you whack dudes. I stay on my own lane and stack paper. Fell off, but I'm back, hater. Lot of niggas being commentators. Keep the topic of the conversation. Since you talking, mention how I got clout and how I fucked your hoe at your house. That's something to talk about. I get money, so fuck what y'all talking about. I flipped and I'm stashing the profit out. Pockets bulging, yeah, they popping out. I had niggas sick, bring the doctor out. Niggas green like Oscar the Grouch. Smoking gelato, got cotton mouth. Cranberry Sprite, ice, drop a line in it twice. Dudes got a nigga feeling nice. Never sold, but I'm focused. You talk about money, my nigga, I'm rolling the money. I'm chasing, I run like a motor. Used to be on the block flipping boulders. Cool, cold, baking soda. Crack, nigga, real trap, nigga. A lot of these niggas never sold a nick. I talk about work cause I sold the shit. Not to be cool, I was broke as shit. But that ain't work, I had to go legit. Had to get on my shit.
Had to get on my shit, nigga. That real shit, nigga. Y'all know the lead rate. Hey, man, Key. There's no point to prove. Fuck them niggas.
Yo, my young boy be going too hard, yo. Key on the motherfucking beat.
Yes, actually, the academics haven't into the whole lost civilization mystery, and I went on from there. I wrote a book with Robert Bauval called Keeper of Genesis in the UK, The Message of the Sphinx here in America. Robert became a very close friend, and he and I are close friends to this day. In 1997, Santha and I made a book together which is called Heaven's Mirror, which is a large photographic book. Thank you, because I would be nowhere without my wonderful wife and partner. No one. And she's a great and gifted photographer. Sorry? I met Santa in Ethiopia. Santa had been living in Ethiopia for 6 years. Santa is of Tamil, South Indian origin, but was born in Penang in Malaysia and grew up in Malaysia. And the course of her life brought her to Ethiopia, where we were introduced by our mutual friend, the historian Richard Pankhurst, and where I immediately fell in love. Instantly, on the spot. Felt quite sure I'd known Santa before, and I do believe in past lives. And I realize I've got stuff to work out in this life to apologize for what I did in the last life. We do Heaven's Mirror, which is about the marriage of sky and ground that you find in many, many temple sites all around the world, and the alignments and the mimicking of constellations on the ground. And then we do Underworld. Underworld's a huge book. At this point, I'm writing very defensively. I've come in for a lot of attack with Fingerprints of the Gods, and I've seen how the skeptics work. What they do is, if they can find a little hole in your argument, if there's a little error you've made, they'll insert the tip of the skeptical knife in there, and they'll worm it in, and then they'll turn it. And by a magical process, they will then attempt to discredit your entire body of work based on one small error. So this made me very determined not to have any errors. In other words, to bulletproof my arguments. That's why Underworld is best used as a doorstop.
For some, true confidence comes naturally. With L certified by Lexus, it comes standard.
Or whatever, 900 pages of it and 2,000 footnotes. Yes, actually the academics haven't been able to find any holes in it, but it's a really boring read, you know, that's the trouble. I want to write from a place of courage, not from a place of fear. I don't want to be defensive anymore in my writing, but Underworld was part of my progress. Santa and I learned to scuba dive in order to write Underworld. Is it possible that the 10 million square miles of land that were submerged at the end of the last ice age contain remnants of a former civilization? And we dived, it's a great privilege to dive all over the world over a period of 7 years and to document the existence of underwater structures. And then after Underworld, in 2002 when it was published, I thought, I'm done with this. I have walked the walk, I've put my life on the line. Some of the diving we did, both Santa and I, several times came very close to losing our lives in most perilous situations. And to the point where I still I have a kind of revulsion about diving now. I used to love it, and there's nothing better, frankly, than a 15-meter drift dive across a beautiful coral reef. But when you're dealing with a current that's running as fast as a river amongst rocky structures with huge pounding waves above, it's a totally different story. I thought I've done it. I've honestly done it. I've walked the walk. I'm going to do something else. And I decided I would write a book about human origins. Well, that wasn't as simple as it seemed, because when I really started to research human origins, which I'd last looked at when I was at university, when I really started to research it, I found the story was incredibly boring. For years, millions of years, from the last common ancestor with the chimpanzee down to anatomically modern humans about 200,000 years ago, there's nothing to say, really. And even after we become anatomically modern, just this whole archaic, unimaginative thinking is manifested. But then you suddenly get this emergence of cave art, of rock and cave paintings all over the world. It happens pretty much at the same time, and it's associated with a huge leap forward, not in the physical evolution of human beings, but in the evolution of our behavior. And I suddenly realized this is the moment I want to concentrate on. What was inspiring those artists? How did they emerge from millions of years of boredom into the light of this incredible expression of symbolism? And that resulted in my book, Supernatural: Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. Thank you. And in order to write that book, which fundamentally was about altered states of consciousness and the use by shamans down into prehistory of plant allies that put them into trance states, deeply altered trance states, during which they have visions, after which they emerge and paint the visions that they remember, well, I found out that hunter-gatherers are still doing that in the Amazon jungle today. If you go down to the Amazon jungle, you will find that ayahuasca, the brew ayahuasca, has been in use for thousands of years. It is used by shamans to contact the realm beyond, the world of the dead, the world of spirits, and they paint their visions. They come back, the alert, normal, problem-solving state of consciousness, and they paint what they've seen. And I encountered one of those shamans, Pablo Amaringo. And I realized, of course, as an authentic, if I'm to be authentic, if I'm to write about this subject in any authentic way, I have to go to the Amazon and drink ayahuasca. There's no other way I can do this. So I talk Santa into that, and off we go to the Amazon to drink this powerful hallucinogenic brew. And I must say it was a life-changing experience. It was an utterly life-changing experience. First of all, it put me in a place where I could write my book. Those first 11 sessions, which were followed up by sessions with Ibogaine and with DMT, all sorts of things. But I could write my book authentically. But secondly, I discovered that ayahuasca was playing a role in my life that went far beyond the issue of research and writing books. Most importantly, ayahuasca was showing me my shadow side and teaching me how I had to deal with it. And how I would not make progress as a human being if I did not deal with that. Particularly, I haven't dealt with it all. I still have a terrible tendency to anger. It's a real problem for me. I do my best not to do it. I got angry on a debate on the Joe Rogan Experience the other day, and I very much regret that. I shouldn't have got angry. Anger serves nothing. It's useless. But you know, you can be shown your faults again and again and again by Mother Ayahuasca, but to overcome a lifetime of bad habits is not easy. I'm still working at it. I do think I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about my impact on others. I try, as far as it is humanly possible to do so, to be a nurturing and positive presence rather than a negative presence in the lives of others. I don't always succeed, but I feel that those who describe ayahuasca as 20 years of psychotherapy in one night are absolutely on. That's right. That's what it is. And then it's so much more than that. You know, you see episodes through your past life, you see the impact that you had on others, how you hurt others with words that you didn't even think were hurtful or that you felt were perfectly justified. You understand that you aren't that, you know, perfect, loving, gentle human being you imagine you are. Ayahuasca is saying, here is the truth, buddy. Deal with it. You know, that's a very useful lesson. And it's a lesson that's worth reminding oneself of from time to time. Ayahuasca is a school, not an instant. It's extremely emotionally painful. Well, to be honest, it depends how much baggage you're carrying. If you've been a person filled with light all your life, and all you've ever done is give love, ayahuasca will not give you a hard time. I know people who are like that, who are just beautiful souls, saints really, and when they go through the ayahuasca experience, they do not get put through the mill. They get shown light and beauty and joy. You know, so what ayahuasca is doing is it needs us to improve ourselves before we can begin to benefit from all of the other lessons that she has to teach. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's what happens.
The Earth, Terra, Gaia, the third rock from the sun. This planet has been our home for all of human history and beyond. Yet, there's still much we don't understand about our insignificant pale blue dot. Where did life begin? When will disaster strike? And who thought of the name? Here are 7 things we don't know about Earth. In at number 7, how it works. Plate tectonics is the accepted theory that Earth's crust and upper mantle is made of large fragments which glide over the rest of the mantle, collectively forming a shell to protect us from a fiery death 2,800 kilometers beneath our feet. But as for what's below that, we're still working that out. Seismic studies show our outer core is liquid and our inner core is solid, and that they're probably about 80% iron. But we don't know the chemical composition of the rocks in our mantle. We don't know what processes cause plate tectonics, and we don't know for certain why Earth has a magnetic field. We have some good ideas, but these are all based on satellite scans and mathematical models. And we can't really dig down there to look, since the deepest hole ever dug by humans is Russia's Kola super deep borehole at 12.3 kilometers. Interestingly, a lot of what we do know about Earth's seismological activity can be attributed to the development of nuclear weapons. During the Cold War, seismological research was heavily funded to help detect nuclear detonations, which means all those no-new kippies were holding humanity back, and Kim Jong-il was just a keen geologist all along. In at 6, sedimentary, my dear Watson. By analyzing sedimentary and volcanic rocks, we can track changes in the Earth's magnetic field throughout our planet's history. And in doing so, we've noticed some rather strange anomalies, one of which is occurring right now. On several occasions, the Earth's magnetic field has reversed, only to then revert back and stay that way for as long as 10 million years. Data released in May by the European Space Agency also showed Earth's magnetic poles are weakening at a much faster rate than previously thought, and that we could be heading for another magnetic reversal in our near future. The last time this happened was in the Stone Age, and we don't know whether it's caused by events in our core or tectonic plate movements. But don't worry, because if it happens, the worst thing magnetic reversal will cause is the obsolescence of everyone's compasses, which is great news if you own a compass factory. In at 5, where and how did life begin? The theory that anatomically modern humans originated in Africa 250,000 years ago before dispersing to the rest of the world is well known and widely accepted. But what about before that? Where did Earth's earliest forms of life first begin to flourish? The primordial soup theory states that chemicals slopped together in the Earth's oceans may have provided the building blocks necessary for life to get its ass in gear. The energy to kick things off could have then come from lightning, as the Miller-Urey experiment from 1953 showed that electric sparks can generate amino acids and sugars from an atmosphere similar to that of early Earth. Alternatively, life may have begun deep within clay or ocean ice, at the bottom of the sea around hydrothermal vents, or via panspermia, where life forms from a habitable planet are transported via meteorites and asteroids. So nobody has yet pinpointed how and where life began, but since it's likely we started underground, in the ocean, or on another planet, I guess you could say we're all fish, moles, or Martians. Number 4, when will disaster strike? The prediction of earthquake activity and volcanic eruption has improved significantly over the past century. But there are still many things we don't know about these devastating natural disasters, which would really help us prepare for them in the future. And that would mean we could quit making cheap-ass disaster movies where Morgan Freeman always seems to be president. Perhaps if we understand the behaviors going on in the Earth's core and mantle, we may be better equipped to figure out how faults form to cause earthquakes and what subterranean mechanisms are at play to cause the magma accumulation which leads to volcanic eruptions. America, in particular, needs these developments to happen pretty soon, because with both the Yellowstone caldera and the San Andreas fault lines seemingly overdue for some activity, it's only a matter of time before something of note happens there. And all the Morgan Freemans in the world won't save us then. At 3, who picked the name? It's a good job classy civilizations from antiquity were the ones who named our solar system's planets. Mars was the Roman god of war, Jupiter the Roman god of sky, and Uranus the Greek god of heavens. But if they were all named today, we'd call them Planet McPlanety-Face, Ringy Ringerson, and we'd probably keep Uranus because it's funny. But what about Earth? Who chose that name? Well, we can trace the word Earth back to an Old English noun, Eartha. There is no known origin for the application of this term in reference to the entire world, although it is generally accepted that Earth started to move from a description of dirt to a formal title around the formation of early modern English in the late 15th century. At 2, where's our Ice Age at? If any 20th Century Fox producers are watching this, we're not referring to those Ray Romano movies you keep making. You've done 5 already, guys. That's enough. It's time for the Ice Age to end, Sid and Manny to go extinct, and their corpses to start rotting into mush. No, we are, of course, talking about the periods of extremely cold climate which can last for millions of years, plunging Earth into a perpetual winter. There have been 5 major ice ages in Earth's history, and within the present one, the Pliocene Quaternary glaciation. Cycles of ice sheets have been advancing and retreating for between 40,000 and 100,000 years at a time in what's...
Okay, so this is why I don't believe in global warming. how many ice ages have we had? At least 5. And how can you have more than one ice age? Well, the ice age had to end. Okay, so how does the ice age end? Well, all the fucking polar caps start melting because the planet gets hotter. So we haven't seen the ice age in how many millennia? But we can tell that it's happened several times before. Right? And we, like you said, and we are actually leaving an ice age. Right now we're still leaving out of an ice age because we have ice at the poles. It's a natural cycle. Now, do carbon emissions and all that shit fuck up the air? Yes, it does. But is that the reason for global warming? No, it's not. Global warming is a very natural occurrence.
It's called a glacial period. These temperature drops are caused by cycles of ice sheets plunging sediment. If any 20th Century Fox producers are watching this, we're not referring to those Ray Romano movies you keep making. You've done 5 already, guys. That's enough. It's time for the Ice Age to end. Sid and Manny to go extinct and their corpses to start rotting into mush. No, we are, of course, talking about the periods of extremely cold climate which can last for millions of years, plunging Earth into a perpetual winter. There have been 5 major ice ages in Earth's history, and within the present one, the Pliocene Quaternary glaciation. Cycles of ice sheets have been advancing and retreating for between 40,000 and 100,000 years at a time in what's called a glacial period. These temperature drops are caused by fluctuations in Earth's orbit called Milankovitch cycles. And guess what? Our next glacial period is way overdue. Oh no. I hope we're not snowman pregnant. We currently reside in an interglacial period of 11,000 years, and typically these last for about 10,000 to 12,000 years. So at most, we should have about 1,000 years left before the world gets cooler. And what's cooler than being cool? Ice cold, of course. As Andre 3000 famously posited in his 2003 thesis, hey-ya! But shockingly, just last year, NASA published a study showing Antarctica was gaining more ice than it was losing. And with global warming on the rise, nobody knows why this might be. Mathematics professor Valentina Zarkova believes it is related to solar cycles, and using a model based on solar observations from the Royal Astronomical Society, which she claims is 97% accurate, she predicts we're heading for a mini ice age in as little as 15 years. And at number 1, how hot will it get? Far likelier than a sudden ice age is an extreme global heat crisis. Because today, around 97% of climate scientists agree climate change is occurring, and 82% believe it is likely caused by the activities of man. But if you disagree with them, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. However, you will be forced to go sit in a special corner with Bobby Ray Simmons to discuss flat Earth theories and how the moon is made of cheese. Climate change denial occurs because many efforts to counteract it aren't beneficial to big business. And data is often twisted to fit the agendas of major corporations. Remember the NASA report on Antarctica gaining sea ice? That's true, but it's actually losing land ice because of global warming, which many climate change deniers conveniently ignore. We know that industrial ranching, deforestation, and fossil fuel use are 3 of the main causes of our atmosphere trapping heat. But exactly how hotter it will get in the future is something we cannot predict. Various modeling studies suggest an increase between 2.7 and 19.8 degrees Fahrenheit over the next century. But with Arctic sea ice shrinking, sea levels rising, and the Earth breaking temperatures every year, the effects of climate change are obvious, even if the exact gauge on the thermometer is not. So that's our list of things we don't know about Earth. Are you hankering for a few more?
This is the second time I disagree with Strange Mysteries. I don't see how people can't realize that the sun plays more of an effect on heat towards the planet than we do. And fucking deforestation, we get most of our oxygen from the oceans anyway. There's more fucking water that covers the planet than land, you know. Most of our oxygen comes from like sea algae and shit like that. Like I say, goddamn, man is playing a part in it, but the industrial age is not the main reason for the heating of the planet, yo. And so if you don't believe in man-made global warming, that means you must believe in the flat earth theory. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I guess these guys don't believe that 9/11 was an inside job either.
Delicious unanswered questions. Then watch our recent video on 7 unexplained human conditions, which with hindsight should have included how people can be stupid enough to believe in flat earth theories. Thankfully, since history is all on computers now, it's pretty easy to rewrite when we discover something which challenges our previously held historical beliefs. But when an archaeological dig uncovers an object which challenges our ideas of culture, religion, and humanity itself, these are a little harder to edit. The entries in this video will change the way you think about Jesus, America, and humanity itself. So let's find out why. In our list of 8 shocking discoveries that made us rethink history. At number 8, the mystery of Jesus' beard. When you think of Jesus Christ, you probably imagine him as a long-haired, bearded gentleman in sandals, white robe, and some sort of fruity red sash, as if he's the prom queen or something. Now, obviously, we all know that if Jesus had come from the Middle East, as he's supposed to have done, his skin color should be a little darker than the Casper-esque honky white tone he's given in church murals. But we might have also gotten his haircut all wrong. Because in 2014, a group of Spanish archaeologists discovered a glass plate depicting Jesus with short hair, and not a single trace of that long, luscious beard. This 4th century piece is thought to be one of the earliest depictions of our man JC. And as well as bringing into question how Jesus might have looked, this discovery also made us wonder if Christianity reached Spain a whole century earlier than we previously thought. But more so the beard thing. 7. America's fur.
Am I gonna have to stop listening to Strange Mysteries? Wow. I've been listening to them for a while. Or am I just starting to notice shit now? So he just put it out there like Jesus was a real person. Where's the science to that? Oh man. Anyway. It's supposed to be strange mysteries. They talk about all kind of. Never mind.
First. It has long been established that Christopher Columbus was not the first to arrive on the American continent. He just shouted first, the loudest, got the most likes is all. Today, we believe it's more likely that Vikings were the first, having pitched up in eastern Canada around 1,000 years ago. But a recent discovery could change that. After a shipwreck found off Nova Scotia's Oak Island in 2015 was found to contain a whistle, a sword, shield, coins, and a sculpture belonging to explorers from the Roman Empire. Ancient burial mounds were also found in shallow waters near here. And these graves, which are more consistent with European burial customs rather than Native American ones, have been dated somewhere between 1500 BC to 180 AD. This would mean Chris Columbus could have been beaten by as much as 1,500 years, if we can prove the veracity of this site, of course. Experts are divided at the moment, as some believe these ancient artifacts were merely dropped by careless explorers mere centuries ago. So what do you think? Were the Romans first? Or have we all been duped by a Butterfingers? 6. The cradle of civilization. Around 6,500 years ago, the ancient city-states of Mesopotamia rose in modern-day Iraq and Iran to form the world's first civilized societies. And we refer to this region now as the cradle of civilization. But did this cradle topple? Maybe some sort of evil cradle containing a psycho baby hell-bent on destroying the world? Could be. As in 2015, archaeologists working in the burnt city of southeastern Iran discovered leather drawings and pottery depicting a separate, previously unknown civilization which existed to the east of the Mesopotamian states. These findings could mean that while the cradle of civilization was important, it was not unique, and merely one of several areas of the world where our style of modern urban living first began. 5. Dead or alive. Over the past few years, the mummified remains of around 40 Buddhist monks have been found in China, India, and Mongolia, including this 200-year-old fella found in January 2015, and this cheeky little guy whose remains were also discovered last year inside a Buddhist statue, and who is believed to be over 1,000 years old. These mummies are always found sat in the lotus position, and there are 2 creepy things you need to know about them. First of all, they may have been mummified alive via practice known as Suku Shinbutsu, where Buddhist monks reach a higher state of enlightenment by refusing to eat, drink, or move until they are gradually self-mummified. But don't feel too bad for them yet, because the second creepy thing is that some Buddhists believe that these monks, whether 100 or 1,000 years old, are actually not dead. If you poke them or tickle their bellies, they might not seem very alive, but that's because they're apparently in a deep meditative state. This is according to Dr. Barry Kurzin, who's the Dalai Lama's personal physician. And there are some who believe that the monk found inside the Buddha statue is actually Buddha himself. So, could either of these be true? Is there a state of enlightenment which all humans can achieve by sitting still and doing nothing all day? If so, I am way ahead of you, Mr. Lama. In at number 4, 55,000 years out. This next entry demonstrates just how much our current scientific theories can be blasted out of the water by a single discovery. It was once believed that after our super fun monkey time came to an end, modern humans evolved 200,000 years ago, and then migrated out of Africa 70,000 years ago. However, in 2011, when complex stone tools were discovered in Arabia, archaeologists dated these back to 125,000 years ago, which means humans had been exploring the globe for 55,000 more years than we previously thought. To put this into perspective, we've known of the existence of Edward Snowden, Miley Cyrus's tongue, and Kristen Stewart's dirty cheater side longer than we've known when humans first went to wandering. Number 3. The Greek Wanderers. Marco Polo is thought to be one of the first Europeans to have met and interacted with the Chinese people during the 13th century. But just like Chris Columbus, he might have been beaten by some distance by yet another civilization from classical antiquity, the ancient Greeks. If you know your history of pottery, or you sunk a few days into Sid Meier's civilization, you'll have heard of the Terracotta Army, which comprises of 8,000 clay figures that were made to depict the armies of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. The figures date from the late 3rd century BC, but rather than being built solely by the native Chinese, there is evidence to suggest that a group of ancient Greek artisans may have helped or influenced their construction. European DNA has been found at the sites around the Terracotta Army from the time they were built, and several aspects of the figurines' design also seem massively influenced by Greek art and culture. This discovery was reported in fall 2016 in The Independent, The Guardian, and National Geographic. And if true, it means Marco Polo was beaten by a whole millennia. Oh, and these movements of people weren't solely one way, you know. At 2, the Chinese Wanderers. As an addendum to the discovery of ancient Greek influence in China, we've also recently found evidence that ancient Chinese explorers made it further than we thought, too. In 2016, a group of Chinese skeletons were discovered in a cemetery which belonged to folks who had snuffed it sometime between the 2nd and 4th centuries. But the remarkable thing about these skeletons is that they were found in a Roman cemetery in freaking London, England. The Chinese and Roman empires did indeed know about each other's existence, but it was thought that they rarely interacted, seeing each other as hostile people to be kept at arm's length. So what these Chinese people were doing in what was then a far-flung Roman colony is anyone's guess. But it seems these ancient folks did a whole lot more traveling than we ever gave them credit for. And at number 1, the history of a planet. A discovery that rewrites Earth history is pretty snazzy itself. But how about one which changes our theory on the history of Mars? This is exactly what happened in June 2016 when the Curiosity rover found a mineral called tridetomite inside a Martian crater. Scientists think tridetomite can only be created using extremely hot temperatures. So its discovery on Mars means that the red planet could have been far hotter in the past than we previously believed. And also home to a series of gigantic planet-boning volcanoes, too. Also, when tridetomite forms here on Earth, it does so as a result of plate tectonics and the presence of water. So this could be further proof that Mars was once deliciously moist as well as rather scorchy. And according to NASA's Richard Morris, this could just be the beginning of a series of discoveries about how Mars works. As he was quoted as saying, "Mars is a different place. Processes are different there. There may be something going on that we just don't recognize yet." So that's our list. Aren't you glad we didn't mention Stonehenge? That thing comes up on these kind of lists all the time. It's just a bunch of ancient Legos built by folks who didn't use toilet paper. Get over it. But if you'd like to see more intriguing historical tales, why not check out our recent video on the 7 most mysterious coincidences from history that shouldn't have happened, but did.
Alright guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Oh, I got 2 more days of work. Damn. I'm about to go eat me some dinner and watch me an episode of Game of Thrones. Yo, I'm all into that shit. I'm gonna take my ass to bed. So I'm just applying a third layer of paint to the shirt. Trying to get some of those pinks to stand out a little bit more. Hey, MB. I was just about to get out of here too. Dank. Ooh. Boulder 420. I don't know about that dank, boy. You know about that dank. That's that danky dank. Alright guys, I gotta get up early for work. I sure appreciate everybody stopping in. Chilling with the boy for a minute. You know what I'm saying? It's always good. Where the fuck is my PlayStation controller? Alright. Hey. I know. I'll be back in here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I got 2 more days of work, so tomorrow evening I'll put in another hour. What's tomorrow? Sunday. And then Monday evening I'll put in another hour. And then you guys can catch me Tuesday morning for, you know, my regular hours early in the morning. And then I'll be in here for a couple hours, hopefully. On my next rotation off, I will at least be able to finish this one. To get this one completed and really start to focus on the blue canvas. And then I got to start getting some other shit on canvas. I already have I already have 3 photographs lined up for the next series, so I'll be able to just jump right into that shit. I'm tired as fuck, yo. I ain't even lie. Peace. Till next time.